Well, hi there. I am Andrew Watkins, and if you're listening to this while juggling 3 patient calls, checking in a couple patients, taking a payment, selling skincare, and trying to catch your doctor in between procedures, you might be working in an aesthetic practice.
And I'm Blake Lucas, and this is Practice Land. This is not your doctor's podcast.
Welcome back to a beautiful day in Practice Land. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and tell your friends and your colleagues about our program. Love to have you here. Really excited for today's podcast. We are welcoming back Heather and Jenna from episode 2, where they share their successes and how-tos about moving up into leadership in aesthetics. Great topic. If you haven't listened to that episode, make sure you take a moment out of your day to go back and listen to that. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it yet, let me introduce Heather Hughes Hardy, a former COO and registered nurse who partners with practices to take their big ideas and make them work in real life and ultimately drive profitability that lasts. So thank you so much, Heather, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. And of course, we have Jenna Hennig here with us, a nationally known aesthetic nurse, injector, sales strategist who's all about helping providers connect with patients on a deeper level and making the process just feel a little less salesy. Thanks, Jenna.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. These are some of my favorite topics. So I'm super excited to get into it.
Awesome. And of course, we loved having you on the show on episode 2. That was a great topic. Of course, we had to have you back. Today, we're talking specifically about listening for code words that everyone in the practice needs to know or definitely should know. So, Heather, I want to start with you. Why do some words matter more than others in these types of interactions?
Yeah, so specifically for our patients, when they're talking about their concerns and goals, they're typically describing feelings that they're chasing. And if we transition straight to clinical solution mode and gloss over those emotional charged words like tired or heavy or not myself, we're kind of dismissing their why. And when we're thoughtful in our process and consciously reflecting those exact words back to them conversationally, our patients actually feel seen and safe. And that's where trust begins. And it's a small tweak in each team member's process that can actually make a really big difference in patient satisfaction scores. And by proxy, the entire practice's overall conversion rates.
When you think about like the entire practice or as a whole and every individual that's involved, what would you say is everyone's role or responsibility in this process?
The way I like to think about it is that like every handoff is a moment to build credibility or potentially lose it. So from the first phone call to checkout, staff should be note-taking like strategists. So the inquiry call sets the tone, and then the PCC builds that relationship, and the MA then gets to confirm intent when that patient's in the room. By the time that the provider actually walks in, they should be equipped with a pretty tight rundown from their team and have a good understanding of what the patient has actually said that they want to feel in their own words. You take down those notes, use your quotations. That way they can align with their medical expertise and the patient's desire. And that's when it clicks because the patients get the feel good green light and they feel like this practice actually cares, that they took the time to listen.
Yeah, I mean, what you've outlined is this beautiful experience of such a tight ship. I love it. Jenna, a question for you. Which phrases from patients really matter?
I think Heather really hit the nail on the head. It's the phrases that they're using that are their emotional drivers. So saying, I feel like I want to the outside of how I look to match the way that I feel inside. I feel tired. I feel like my lower face is heavy. It's the expression of the feeling that they're having. That's what you really want to key into. And what's super interesting is what I try to pay attention to is, are they positive motivated or are they negative motivated? So for example, if somebody's like, oh, I just really want to be lifted and I want to rejuvenate this and I want to get back, whatever it may be, versus I'm tired of feeling this heaviness. I want to get rid of this jowling. I want to get rid of this laxity. And when you really pay attention to like the exact phrases that they're using, that's what you mirror back, instead of me saying like, oh yeah, your platysmal band here is pulling down. I'm going to actually say, yeah, that heaviness here, that's that sagging, if they said that instead of saying skin laxity. You're paying attention to the exact words that they're using so you can mirror it back to them, because then it's going to make sense instead of shifting into that anatomical mode where you start kind of going way over their head. So it's the emotional driver, how it's making them feel, and then what if they're positive or negative motivated, so you can mirror that back to them when it comes to their treatment plan presentation.
Speaking back kind of the same words that they used or speaking in that language also, I feel like is a part of like active listening. It helps them feel that they're being heard, that you understand like the problem or whatever it is that they're bringing up, that you are coming from a place where, like, I totally get you. And that, instantly builds so much trust. So using their words back to them, I think, is such a huge, huge piece, that if you can practice that and put that into your repertoire, like, you'll immediately see results with something like that.
Yeah, it's exactly that, and it's funny because, like, a lot of times patients will be like, you hit the "that's right" moment, and they're like, "Yeah, exactly," and it's
Mm.
like you're just literally repeating what they said to you, but they wanna feel like you truly understand them as opposed to, "I'm coming to you and I need to know that you understand what my goal is if I'm going to
Yeah.
trust you," and even though you're literally just repeating back their own words, they feel like, "Oh gosh, you get it. You get me. Like, you are the person
Yeah.
to get me to my goal."
Do you feel like cosmetic patients tend to say a lot of the same things, or is it different from patient to patient?
Yeah, I usually start most of my social media videos by saying, what most of my patients tell me. And it's so true. The most common thing that I hear is the submental area. They said that either they want to tighten it up or they feel like it's sagging, and then tiredness in the under eyes and heaviness in the lower face. And that's such a huge opportunity to really tie in the social proof aspect of it, whether you're posting on social media and explaining a treatment or when somebody comes in
Mm.
and they state those concerns to you. I usually tell them, like, hey, this is a super, super common concern. Most of my patients, before they start these treatment plans, feel exactly the way that you do. And you're tying back in, like, A, I have helped people who have your same concerns. And there are people out there like you that are struggling with this. And the social proof really just helps you kind of validate your expertise and makes them sure that you can create a treatment plan that's going to solve their concerns.
As you're talking, I'm already kind of like thinking like, oh yeah, you've nailed that. I feel the same way.
Right.
Like,
Same.
you're
We
already
all
kind of
do.
taking me through it. Yeah. Like I'm ready to go. What's my treatment? What's next? I love it. When you're talking with patients, do you ever share some of your own personal experiences with patients to kind of create that relationship or trust?
Yeah, all the time. Again, I feel like it ties in the not only the social proof aspect of it, but also the authenticity of everybody struggles with these. And I myself have struggled with,
Mm.
feeling like I'm a mom of two very young children. So I feel like I have a lot of tiredness in my face. And this is what I do to help with that. And that way they know that you can relate to me, but also you're doing these things that you're recommending to me. Or even if it's not myself, it's, this is the treatment plan that I started my mom on or my sister on, or this is what I would prescribe
Mm.
to my family member. And that really just validates that I'm not just trying to make a sale to you. This is something that I truly believe is going to work for you because either I've done it or it's something that I recommend to my family.
What about, like, Heather? What do you think about body language? I know it's kind of changing gears a little bit, but that can be so important. Is just the unspoken word. What unspoken cues do you look for, or do you see?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot you can learn by what your patient tells you, but there's a lot that your patients are not going to say out loud, a whole life's worth of experiences that are shaping their thought process. But their body will also tell you a ton of how they're feeling. And so when someone is leaning back, folding their arms, or avoiding eye contact, that's often like hesitation or emotional withdrawal. And so you might catch some quick glances to a friend in the room or a sudden stillness of your patient, even some self soothing gestures like rubbing their hands together. All of these are silent
Mm.
cues that something's not necessarily landing. And we're going to dive deeper in another episode. But for now, just know that body language is the patient's first language. And if you're not tuned into it, you're likely missing a huge part of the conversation.
Yeah, and we will be diving into a whole nother episode just on body language. So make sure you're subscribing again to get that content. Really excited for that episode too. I'm thinking too about personal experiences where, like, I've been in a situation like a consult or something like that, and I'm reading, from the patient's perspective, I'm reading their body language, and sometimes I feel like they're turned off to me, or I'm like not connecting, and that makes me a little bit
Mhm.
uncomfortable as a patient. Or what do you think about, like, your own personal body language, and or what are you trying to do to show that you're actively listening to your patient?
Yeah, so my mind kind of goes specifically to the time that when I was actually a patient care coordinator working with patients directly one on one. This can be in any different role. But for me specifically, like something as far as my posture, I would make sure that I was relaxed but focused. And so, no clipboard in front of me shielding
Mm.
me, no crossed arms. I'm slightly leaning into the patient, maintaining eye contact with them. I'm trying to mirror their tone and pace. I tend to get really excited and talk really fast when I'm really happy about something. So I try to take note of what my patient is
Mhm.
doing. And then, like, if they're soft and hesitant, then I try to get quieter and gentler. And if they're confident and direct and ready to go, I try to match that energy too. I really want my body to say, You're safe. I'm here. I'm not rushing you. Because I feel like that's what opens the door to an honest conversation. At the end of the day, the way that we listen is just as important as what we're saying. That at least that's how I feel.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great little tidbit. I think we'll take that with us. That's like our actionable item as we leave. In these conversations, I know there's a ton of information that's going back and forth, right? And it can be very exciting. It can be a little nervous. There's a lot of emotion going on. So I imagine, you need more than just your memory to rely on as you move past that and you move into those next steps. Jenna, what do you do, or what's your process to make sure that you're taking as much important information with you from that meeting?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because just like Heather said, you don't want to create a barrier between you and the patient. So I try not to have like my tablet or anything in front of me because I don't want to be having them talking and I'm like, and
Yeah.
then just like typing the whole time. So really I try to focus on keeping in my mind while actively listening, what is that emotional driver? What are they trying to achieve? And then you just kind of learn with practice to kind of keep tabs on certain things that they're saying. And really your main goal of as you're listening to them is how do I tie this all back to what their goal is or what the emotional driver is. So usually when I'm in a consult, I'll let them kind of give their whole story. They explain what's bothering them. And sometimes they don't give you a lot of information. They're like, yeah, I'm here for Botox. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Give me more.
and so I like to do this exercise, what I call the mirror exercise, where I hand them a mirror and I tell them, this is going to feel kind of funny, but I want you to grab onto this mirror, look into it. Let's fast forward, even if they're just coming in for like a standard Botox treatment. I've treated them a million times before, just to make sure that we're still in line with your overall treatment goals. Look into the mirror. Let's fast forward 6, 12 months. You're at your end goal for your aesthetic, where you want to be.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me what you would see differently in the mirror than what you see right now. And that really is what paints the picture for you to be able to figure out, okay, what's really bothering you? Because sometimes they say Botox, but like, yeah, I mean, it's down here in the lower face. Like my jaw is just sagging, or I feel like it's just so heavy down here. I feel like I'm always frowning. And then you're able to really kind of tie back into, okay, we're talking about a few different things here. We're going to treat all different layers of the face, whatever it may be, but you're really uncovering what their end goal is. And instead of getting lost in the weeds of looking at them and you making the assumption of what they need, you're keeping tabs on that end goal and the emotional driver and tying back a treatment plan that's going to fit into their timeline, budget, and end goal.
Wow, that's beautiful. As we kind of wrap up here, I always love kind of having something actionable. I think Jenna and Heather, both of you have given us some amazing little tidbits here in the last 10, 15 minutes that we've been talking. But if there was one thing that someone could take away from this, what would you hope like a PCC would take away from our conversation today?
Yeah, I'd say, put it in your mind that patient language is gold. Write it down, repeat it, and use it to show that you were listening. When a patient hears their own words echoed back, they feel like you get them. So just keep that in your mind. Patient language, gold.
Yeah, mine would be very, very similar. Listen, actively listen, and mirror. Don't assume, although you are the expert, don't assume that you know what they're coming in for or you know what they need. When you want to get to the that's right and you get it moment. And so really actively listen to them and always loop it back to what their emotional driver is.
Awesome. Well, Jenna, Heather, thank you so much for being with us again today. If listeners want to follow you or keep up with what you're working on, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram at Heather Hughes Hardy.
Yeah, we share the Corit Instagram as well, and then LinkedIn, Jenna Hennig, and Austin Beauty Boss for my professional injector account.
Well, listener, got a question for Heather and Jenna you want them to answer on a future episode? Send us a message at practicelandpodcast.com. Thank you again for joining us on this beautiful day in Practice Land. Stay fabulous, and we can't wait to see you again on the next episode.
Got a wild customer service story or sticky patient situation? Send us a message or voicemail. If your tale makes it into our She Did What segment, we'll send a thank you gift you'll actually love. Promise, no cheap swag here.
Are you one of us? Subscribe for new episode notifications and more at practicelandpodcast.com. New episodes drop weekly on YouTube and everywhere you can listen to podcasts.